Some of you might have seen on the internet a documentary featuring Rio Ferdinand talking about his wife who died 2 years ago and dealing with the grief, his family, and him now having to deal with being the mum and the dad of his family. And it was a real big eye-opener, and I don't think it was just because it was something to, you know, sit with people who have experienced loss of a loved one or a family member. It was also a big eye-opener, I feel like, for people who haven't experienced that properly yet. It does give them an insight and a look into what it's like having to deal with something like that. And for me, it was something that I could obviously relate to quite a bit. I lost my mum. It was 6 years ago, last week, that I lost my mother to leukemia. And I've talked about it a couple times in a few videos, and I thought that on the topic of that, and considering it's 6 years since she passed away, I thought I would talk a little bit about, you know, losing a loved one and grief, because I really loved the documentary. I loved what was said in it, and there was a lot of things that I realised about myself and how I went through it that I didn't even realise until I watched it myself. And I know that this is such a regular thing with people. People losing loved ones all the time. Could be something that will help you in the future if that day unfortunately has to come, or if you've been through it recently, or if you've been through it in the past. You might feel something that you didn't quite necessarily acknowledge back then. So dealing with loss and grief, for me, I feel like there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to grieving, the grieving process, or how to deal with losing someone. Everyone is different, and we all grieve differently. We all grieve in different ways and different time frames. No one can tell you how or how long to grieve for, and it's up to you to decide how long you do that for, how you do it, and what's appropriate for you. Because, as I've said before, everyone does things differently. Everyone is unique, and they need certain and different things in order to deal with what's happened. All anyone else can do is try to help in any way that they can. It's very, very naive to think that you are the problem solver to someone's problems. You will not necessarily change everything about them simply by saying a few words or doing something for them. It's a whole different ballpark. There's a difference also between grieving and accepting your loss. How did I grieve, for example? I kept busy all the time. I made sure I was gaming, making YouTube videos, going to school, going out, doing things to kind of keep my mind off it. This was after she passed away and leading up to it as well, because there was a period of time before it I knew that she was actually probably going to pass on. So I had time to deal with it, and I had time to kind of like grieve in my own way. And for me, I felt like I kind of skipped the grieving process. I never really sat down long enough to deal with it and how I felt. I think leading up to the actual unfortunate circumstance of her passing away, I was kind of, you know, I was kept in the dark by my dad. He was like, oh no, she's doing well, she's fighting hard, and she's, you know, in good spirits and all that. But I think it was a lot different in comparison. I've even, you know, spoke to him and realised that, you know, those times when he said things were going well, they may not necessarily have been going well. When things weren't going so well, they were probably going a lot worse than I was. And I think back, and it kind of hurt me that I wasn't let into that kind of secret. But at the same time, had I known all that for as long as it went on, I probably would have been an absolutely terrible mess and really would have struggled to deal with day-to-day stuff if I knew all that. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise to be kept in the dark. But I never really had long enough to sit down and deal with the process. I felt like I grieved a little bit coming up to the moment that she passed away. She passed away, and I felt relief. And I think that there's nothing to be ashamed of, feeling relief that someone has passed away, because you now no longer have them in pain. You no longer have to sit there dealing with that inevitable, oh, is she going to make it? Is she not? There were always moments where, you know, I'd hear back from my dad and the doctors. They'd be like, oh, she's fighting strong. Like, she's really giving it all. She's going to her last breath almost. It's like she will not give up. She's fighting hard. And that gives you such false hope, and it hurts. And there's nothing you can really do about it. It hurts to know that, you know, she's still there. She's still there in front of you. She's still alive and talking back to you or interacting in some way. She is still breathing. But you know that it might not be the case tomorrow or the next day or the next day or next week. She might not be there. And I think that's what made it so hard, that when she finally did pass, it was all that build-up and tension and torture of watching her struggle was washed away because she had finally been at peace. And afterwards, you know, the next day I had to go and do a university exam. Time didn't stop. Time didn't stand still for me. I had to move on and get on with my day. And I guess because I was surrounded by people who, you know, were making me laugh, and a lot of people didn't know about it. They acted like their day, there was nothing different about the day. And I think that's kind of what kept me in check almost, is making sure that I was, you know, head up and moving forward. I think it's one thing to talk about your loss as well, and another to talk about how the loss makes you feel, which is something that was really hit home to me, and I took away from the documentary with Rio in it. And I tried to sit down today and think about how it made me feel. I was at the gym earlier, and I didn't put any music in. I just kind of, you know, was sitting there or doing my workouts, trying to think about how I felt. And I was angry, I was sad, and I wanted answers, and I think it's human nature to blame someone or something. How many times have you blamed someone or something for one of your problems? It's practically a day-to-day basis. And it's human nature to search for answers for things we can't really explain. But the unfortunate, sad truth is there is no answer for this. There's no explanation. There's no one to blame, because it's just one of those things that happens. And it's a little bit scary when you think about it, that nothing you can do can impact certain things in your life. Like, it could be all gone within a snap of the fingers. I really hate to, you know, bring this kind of stuff up, but like the events in Westminster last week are a perfect example of, you know, it only takes one random day of madness to completely change your life, and there's nothing you can really do about it. And it is a scary thought, thinking that your life kind of hinges on absolutely nothing in your control. Someone could just rock up tomorrow and do something absolutely horrible and horrific, and that's the end of it, you know? And it's absolutely frightening. But we can't live in fear. We have to move on, keep strong, stiff upper lip, as we would say, and just keep plodding along and being positive. I think today I almost feel separated from the kind of mindset of how I felt from 2011. Those feelings that I try to explore today, I couldn't recognize them as much. I felt that way for the period of time in that circumstance, at that period of time in my life. And I think I dealt with it enough as it was coming up, and then afterwards, you know, of course I had those small moments where I just thought about her. I mean, you only have to go back and listen to some of my commentaries where I talked about it. That obviously I'm thinking about her, and I've had those moments to deal with it and accepting it. So how did I accept the loss? Is that, you know, imagine this. If you're looking at the screen right now, turn to your left or your right, and just imagine they're standing right next to you. What do you think they would say to you? If you were there heartbroken about it, and it is perfectly your right to do it. I just stood there and I thought, what would my mum say to me if she was here today? She would say, I don't want you to be upset. I don't want to see you like this. She's fought all her life to keep me happy and do everything possible to give me the best life I possibly can. Her passing away is not what should define my life. It's not something that should greatly impact my life for X amount of time. It's a time to think about the good times, have happy memories, and keep those near and dear to your heart. But get up off your feet and move on. Move forward with your life and do exactly what you can to keep happy and show her what you're made of, almost. You know, do everything to make her proud. That's the kind of thing that I feel like got me over the loss, and that's how I accepted it, and that's how I reasoned with it, is that she's not here anymore, and I'm absolutely gutted she's not. Honestly. So gutted, but she'll want me to move on. You can't honestly think to yourself that if you let's swap roles for a minute. if you were the one who unfortunately passed away and you got to talk to someone who is obviously grieving, would you say to them, no, I want you to be sad about this? No, you tell them, don't be sad about it. Think of the good times. Keep them near and dear to your heart and move on with your life. Get going. Don't dwell on this too long. And as time's gone on, I've thought of positives. There are a lot of positives as a result of my mum passing away. Obviously, that could be taken very negatively if you think about it. But since she passed, I've noticed a lot of positives about myself. I relied on my mum for everything. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I was a bit of a mummy's boy. I love my mum. There's nothing... I'm not ashamed to say that. But I am a stronger and a wiser and more independent person. I didn't even know my jean size until I started shopping for myself. I still barely know it. I think I'm 32 at a guess. I think that's what I'm usually buying. But it's those kind of things, becoming a bit more of an independent adult. And I've learnt from her mistakes. I've learnt from her life lessons as well. And that's what I take forward with me. The positives. I don't want to focus too much time and energy on the negatives, because that doesn't get you anywhere. At the end of the day, you will not get anywhere. You will not get anything out of it. I want to briefly talk on how to deal with a loss. If you're someone sitting at home listening to this and you're thinking, how do I deal with a loss for myself? My advice, coming from me, and before I start getting into this, you don't have to take it for gospel. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Everyone's different, and you don't have to accept anything I'm about to say. But for me, what worked for me is not dwelling on it for too long. Get out and keep busy. Keep your friends near and dear to you, and have fun. Do positive steps in your life to move forward and keep that smile on your face. Because if you're smiling, the whole world will smile with you, and things will get better. Writing down memories or thinking of memories, good times, things in your day-to-day life that remind you of her, and not thinking of them of a tragic moment where I won't ever have that moment again, but more of a, I can't believe how much fun I had there, or how much of a good memory and how positive that makes me feel, and that I'm so blessed to have that memory in my life. Talk to them. Imagine that they were here. Talk to them. Tell them what you're saying. Sometimes I'll go to my mum's grave and I'll talk to her and just, you know, say some words. Give her an update on how my life's going. Let her know what is happening. And, you know, imagine what she would say to all of that. What advice would she give you? I can still imagine what she would say to some of the things that I say. Get up and work for them. Make them proud. Do everything in their name. Motivate yourself. Use them as your motivation to go on and make them proud. Show them how much you can achieve, and, you know, have them feel good about everything that they did for you. Make them, show them that the time and love they invested in you was worthwhile, and you have something to show for, that they can look down and be proud upon you. And for the love of God, I know in some circumstances this is the last thing you want to do, but please talk to someone. Even if it's a couple of words, whatever it is. Talking to someone is it's such a big step, and I know it's such a hard thing to do at an emotional time like this. But even if it's a stranger, just getting some words out there, it will make you feel so much better. Now, this is something for those who might have someone who is dealing with a loss and is grieving. They're very short points that I want to get across to those who maybe don't get it or don't understand it in some respect. Please, 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 be sensitive, but don't keep asking if they're okay. It's probably the most annoying thing that you could do in a moment like this. I know it's obviously the easy thing to do, and you want to be there for them, and it's so great of you and so supportive, but don't keep doing it, because all it does is annoy them silly. And if they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to talk about it. You've just got to give them space. Let them think, let them feel, let them process it all. They will come to you. And make sure you are ready and available when they are ready to come to you, because they're going to need you when they are. Even if it's a minute of them talking about something, just be there. You don't even have to say anything. You just have to listen. They will come to you. I promise you that. Just make sure you're there. Do everything positive. You don't even have to do anything related to talking about it. just keeping them positive and busy is all you need to do. I hope this video has helped. If you've listened to this and you haven't watched the documentary, I do advise going over to the BBC iPlayer and giving it a watch, because it was a very well invested hour of my time. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I'll see you later. Peace out.